Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Green Enterprise. I'm your host, Sid Haynes, and I have two incredible guests with me today, Rebecca Colett and LaToyia Rucker. Rebecca and LaToyia are the co-founders, CEO and COO, respectively, of Calyxeum, a cannabis operation located in Detroit. Rebecca and LaToyia, how are y'all? I'm glad that y'all are with us today and excited.
We are doing awesome.
Doing great.
Dope. So they have a bunch of interesting things on the horizon and are an excellent example of individuals moving in the industry the right way. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them and having y'all hear from them as well. You know, it's a really cool success story about some powerful sisters moving in the industry. So with that, let's just get to it. Like, tell us about y'all's background. How did you come into the industry? Where are you from? What got you into cannabis?
Yeah, so I'm from Detroit, born and raised, went to Tuskegee University and studied biology. And so my path that led to cannabis started with me wanting to be a doctor and with me wanting to help people. My grandmother was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and a lot of chronic pain and illness. And we suggested that she get a card to help with her ailments. And a card in Michigan is a cannabis caregiver card, and that allows you to be able to grow plants. And I decided to grow for her and grow medicine for her. And that's how I got into the industry. So I got into the industry by being a caregiver for my grandmother.
Yeah, awesome. Beautiful story. I started in cannabis for personal reasons as well. My dad was a veteran and had a lot of issues getting him access to plants, which I thought was crazy since he served our country. And I just started to really see a lot of discouraging numbers about how many minorities had licensed cannabis businesses in comparison to how often we are incarcerated for the same thing. And I just started getting really passionate, advocating, and years later, after advocating, helping other brands be successful, I went back home to Detroit and wanted to really make a change in my home where I was from. And LaToyia and I met and created Calyxeum.
Very cool. So let's unpack it a little bit, but I love the way that this came together, right? So LaToyia, grandmother had fibromyalgia. You like, I need to become a caregiver so that I could provide medicine to my grandmother. Rebecca, your dad is a veteran, couldn't get access to the plants. Also, you drew into the industry from the ridiculous statistics, right? So it's like you 3 to 4 times, if you look like us, 3 to 4 times more likely to have a cannabis arrest. And we only represent like 2 to 3% of the industry, right? So it's ridiculous. So, you know, things are moving along. The cannabis industry is opening up in Michigan. Let's unpack the timeline a little bit. So when was it that you decided that, okay, like we're in Michigan, the rules are going to open up now? Walk us a little bit through the process of, you know, more of how you decided to start the business together, and then like the nuts and bolts of, you know, doing an application, how to be competitive, those sorts of things.
Yeah, so we met through a mutual friends, I would say back in 20.
Like, I don't know, over 2 years ago, like
Yeah.
4 or 5 people introduced us. You should meet LaToyia. You should meet Rebecca. I'm like, who is this girl?
Right.
I need to meet her.
Yeah.
And in Michigan, the licenses commercially became available, I believe, in like 2017, 2018. And we just really started to see where the industry was gonna go. I was working in California for a minute in the cannabis market, so I started to see, okay, this is gonna become big on the East Coast soon. So let's get our ducks in order. I think we started the application process when in
2019.
So
yeah, and we started looking for real estate, I would say in 2018 when we first met. I was out there really pounding the pavement and trying to find a place that was in the green zone. And for those who don't know what that is, that's a place where cities allocate where you can cultivate, where you can process, or even in Michigan, it's provisioning centers or dispensaries. So those areas are allocated by the city, which in Detroit is really hard to come by. So the fact that we were able to find that real estate was a game changer for us.
mm-hmm.
So, and then, so I just have to ask, like, how Calyxeum, the name, where does it come from?
Yeah, so Calyxeum is a play off of calyx. So a lot of people don't know that the cannabis plant is a female plant. The part that we smoke and we enjoy is female. And so part of the physiology of the plant is the calyx. That's where all the medicine is produced. And so Calyxeum is a play off of calyx.
Yeah, so our tagline is women owned, Detroit grown. A lot of people don't realize is, it's less than 2% of women owned, no matter the color, Black, yellow, white, it doesn't matter, of cannabis licensees in the country. But this is a female plant we all consuming. So who better to run the operation than female? So Calyxeum is really kind of our play for women in the cannabis industry, no matter the ethnicity, because we are really underrepresented in the industry with a female plant.
I think that's really dope. And just, going back to the statistics again, statistics are really astounding. So it's really inspiring to meet and be able to talk with you guys and showcase your story for other folks, who look like us, who want to get into the industry as well. And speaking of getting into the industry, like I know you guys very, very well know how hard and how complex it is to compete and to be able to get a license in the first place, right? So, and I know you mentioned, LaToyia, about finding a property in the green zone. And can you just talk us through, like, we know that the highest barrier to entry into a cannabis marketplace as a business owner is capital, right? You need capital to do real estate. You need capital for your application and everybody who's going to review your applications and your engineer. Can you just walk us through like some of the issues that you guys faced and sort of just a little bit of what you would do to overcome those issues throughout the application process?
Yeah, so you definitely have to be agile. You cannot take no for an answer. And you can't give up if the door shuts in your face 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times. Because you said the barrier to entry is so high. You have to be really creative with how you come up with resources, funding sources. You have to really tap into the political side of cannabis, which is huge. You have to tap into the community side of cannabis. What are you going to do for the community? How are they going to benefit from your business being in their neighborhood? So you really have to, full steam ahead and really be open-minded to the process itself and paving your own way through that process.
And I think another key takeaway for viewers that may be watching is, number one, be persistent, like LaToyia was saying, but also get out there and put your boots on the ground. I think a lot of people that want to get into the cannabis industry don't necessarily do the research for themselves. They go out there and say, let me hire a consultant, let me hire an attorney, without really doing the research for themselves, because a lot of that preliminary work you can do yourself. So, you don't have to be so intimidated by, costly hourly consulting rates, hourly attorney rates, when a lot of that groundwork you can actually do yourself, you and your team. So I think a lot of people who, are looking to enter the cannabis industry should not be so intimidated by the industry. I mean, it is definitely highly regulated. It is challenging at times, but it's very doable if you put the work in. So first, do your research and put the work in. Don't just go waste your money on all these consultants and all these attorneys, because a lot of those fees are unnecessary. So the initial startup costs may not be as much as you really think.
Got it. And then I want to dig in on your business itself a little bit. But before we get there, one thing I also noticed just from brief introductions is how much you both care about your community, right? Like even the reason you got in is sort of community driven, right? Like I'm sure your grandmother is not the only person who benefited from your knowledge of the plant, LaToyia and Rebecca. Same thing with your father, and I know you're an advocate as well. And I have done some work advocating on Capitol Hill on behalf of veterans and whatnot. So to tie this into your application itself, most places that you apply for a cannabis license is going to require some sort of community engagement plan or program. And I know from doing a little bit of research on y'all that y'all have a really, really active nonprofit that's doing a lot of work up there where you are now. So tell us about your nonprofit and the work that you're doing in the community.
Yes, man, one of the reasons we decided to do a whole nonprofit arm that does robust programming in the community is because as consumers, advocates, and cannabis entrepreneurs for years, we saw these cannabis companies come into communities and just be there, or maybe write an annual check to a local nonprofit, but that's it.
Bare minimum.
LaToyia and I are from Detroit. This is our home. This is our community. This is where we are from. We went to school in this neighborhood. So just to write an annual check was not enough for us. We wanted to go above and beyond and really set a higher standard for what a cannabis company should do when they enter a community. So we created a nonprofit. Calyxeum Catalyst is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have 4 program pillars. One is rebuilding dilapidated homes in our community. We are already doing that. We own about 4 blocks around our facility right now. We have an after-school program, an active community garden where we continuously harvest produce and give it out for free to our neighbors. And we also have a workforce development and social equity incubator. Our social equity incubator, I'm sure we'll get into, but we've been able to educate thus far 300 social equity applicants in the Midwest area, just about different cannabis business topics. So we're not only just talking about doing stuff in the community, making cute little posts about it on social media. We are actually in the community daily, weekly, putting in work, volunteering for our community and really making an impact. So like you said, the community means just more to us than just a cute post or just a community plan that's required, just the bare minimum of what's required to get a license. We want to go above and beyond because we are our community.
I love that, and we're gonna get to the incubator now, as a matter of fact, because this is also a hot topic, right? A lot of people trying to figure out the industry. How can I get involved in like incubators? I feel like are an underutilized mechanism or a not permissible mechanism in some places, depending on how you structure it, that people can really use to learn about the industry and the different license types you can hold and what you can do. So let's dig into that a little bit. Tell us about the incubator.
Yes, so our incubator is called the Detroit Cannabis Project. We have a partnership with the state of Michigan, the MRA Social Equity Program, and we also are the official technical assistance provider for the city of Detroit marijuana licensing program. So basically what that means is we provide technical assistance. One of the reasons we wanted to create this incubator, because as entrepreneurs and operators ourselves, we saw a gap in the type of educational assistance that was available. There's a lot of courses that are very beginner. What is THC, Cannabis 101, the history. We saw a gap where there's not a lot of education around technical assistance. What is evaluation? How do you make pro formas? What does a MOU stand for? What are SOPs? What are the different SOPs you should have? So we really saw a miss, and our curriculum is very technical. Our target demographic is for someone who already knows what they want to do in the cannabis industry, and they perhaps have done a little bit of that groundwork. They just need help scaling. They need an introduction to a mentor to help them with a specific issue they're going through. They need assistance in how to pitch so they can go out there and get some investors. So our demographic is for that intermediate group, which we often feel is under supported in the cannabis industry, because that's us. We have business backgrounds. We started businesses before. We know what we're doing, but the cannabis industry is totally different. It has a lot of nuances and intricacies. And since we kind of bumped our head along the way, we wanted to create a program to help people that look like us, not make the same mistakes and have support and mentorship after they get their social equity license, after they get their real estate. Now what? How do they maintain a business? How do they maintain a successful business? How do they scale? How do they get their products into more stores? I mean, a lot of these programs kind of just stop once they get the license. And a lot of minority businesses need operational support. They need mentorship support for a year or two after they open their doors. And that's what we're focused on with Detroit Cannabis Project.
That's right. That's right. I always like to say that, like the license itself, and you live in this, the license itself is not the goal. It's just a part of the checklist. And there are a bunch of other things that you need to do to create a sustainable and successful business that's going to have some sort of positive impact on your community, which you two are absolutely striving to do. I usually say contacts for the end of this, but for anybody who has heard this piece and wants to figure out how they can interact with the incubator, how do they get in touch with you to access that piece?
Yes, visit our website at DetroitCannabisProject.com. All the information about our various programs, our cohorts, and how to apply is there. And also, our instructors are fabulous. I call us the Harvard of cannabis because our instructors are not just some run-of-the-mill Joes. They've been doing this. They're professionals and operators that have been in the cannabis space for years and from around the country, men, women, very diverse, very well decorated with degrees. So we really are going above and beyond to increase diversity in the industry.
I love it. I love it. Let's get to the business and do some nuts and bolts first. Calyxeum. So anybody who's watching who may be curious about this, there are an array of different sorts of licenses that you can get to operate in the cannabis space. And it may vary a little bit. There may be some different terminology amongst the states. But to start this piece of the conversation, can you just tell us which licenses you have in association with Calyxeum?
Yeah, so we're a cultivation and processing brand. So we went after Class C cultivation license and a processing license.
Yeah.
In the future, our plan is to do retail at some point. And so when that time comes, after time, we'll go through that as well.
Yeah, but right now, as far as Calyxeum, we're really focused on being a wholesale brand. We really want to be in as many stores in Michigan as possible. Our bread and butter is flower, but we are expanding into more products later this year, like pre-rolls and edibles. So we're really excited about that. So yeah, processing and cultivation. A lot of people really don't go for those licenses starting off. So that's another reason we wanted to start there, not only because of cultivation experience from LaToyia and team, but also because look at the market, just look at the supply chain and see, how many cultivators are out there in comparison to retail stores. And at least in Michigan, and especially in the Detroit metro area, there is not a shortage of retail stores, but there is a shortage of product. So we are looking to fill that gap and are continuously filling that gap. Especially during COVID, consumer demand increased, I would say, by about 30%. And so, all these retailers were looking for product and we were there to service them. So I think we made a good decision.
Very, very savvy. So my next question, you sort of answered it there. I mean, if there's a shortage of product or a bunch of retailers and nothing on the wholesale or the supply side, you probably have an easier or less, easy is probably not the right word, but an easier time navigating how to get shelf space in that sort of environment. But just for anybody who may be actually in this process or aspiring to have one of these sorts of licenses, just walk us through the process of like, what does it take to get onto shelves? Like, how do you market yourself to these different businesses? Tell us what that grind is like.
I think for us, it was our story, it was our mission, and what we're doing in the community, the social impact side of things. I think if you develop a story that people connect with, then that will make your brand or your company, attractive to get that shelf space.
Yeah, all of our retailers has been really organic. I think that's another misconception in the industry is you need to have a robust sales team to go out there and get your product on shelves. But LaToyia and I did an organic approach, just putting our story out there, putting out there what our brand really means and why it's different from whatever you have in your store. So if you want something different on your shelves, but that's also fire, choose it. I mean, it's really kind of just been crazy because not only do we have we are tapped into the culture, as you say, not to be cliche, but we are the culture. Hello. But our quality and product is also there because we've been cultivating for 10 plus years now. So we know what we're doing in producing a quality product. We have numerous testimonies, you know, from past customers. So it's just really been kind of an organic approach and really kind of focusing on our story from a marketing perspective, whether that's in our merch, whether that's in our social media videos. And the retailers have reached out to us, or when we've reached out to them, they'll say, oh, I've heard about you guys. What? So it's kind of just went from there.
I am the culture. You have to put that on a t-shirt if it's not on a t-shirt already.
Soon, fall collection.
Fall collections, the future. Let's look ahead. And let's talk about what you're doing right now. So, and then we'll get to the future, the expansion plans. I've looked through your website. I've seen some of the things that you offer. You know, customer loyalty is created by good products. That's it. You know, usually, you know, pricing has something to do with that, but people are going to return. You're going to create return customers based on what you provide people who are looking for you. So when I go to a store, or if I go to a dispensary, if I'm looking for a Calyxeum product, what do I know I'm getting as a consumer? What do you focus on? Like, what differentiates you from, no shade, it is what it is, but what differentiates your products from other products that people can find on shelves?
Yeah, so we're more boutique in comparison to larger companies. We really focus on getting the best quality cannabis. It's not just about how high the THC is. There are several cannabinoids that we like to focus on to allow people to relax, be uplifted, be able to get through the day, working, creative. So that's what we really focus on is more small batch, but high quality.
Yeah, we're not mass producing weed over here. It's quality over quantity. It's not how many pounds we can get out or harvest, is how many quality genetics do we have, you know, how many success stories have we had from past customers of, okay, they like this certain strain, they like this certain product. So we also, as we are releasing new strains, we are always collecting market research so we know how people feeling about it. If they're not really feeling that strain, we're not releasing it no more, you know, or if they really, really want this certain strain we had months ago, we're going to release it again. So market research is huge for us because we're not creating this product for us, we're creating it for y'all. So we want to know what y'all think. So we continuously engage with our community to see how they feel and also what they want, what's not on the shelves that we can produce for them in a new release. So that's also a part of our strategy.
Yeah.
Got it. And then let's talk expansion. We talked about retail expansion just a tiny bit at the beginning here, but what are your plans? What's next for y'all?
Yeah, well, right now we are just focused on getting into as many doors as possible. We're really focused on flower right now because that's our bread and butter, but we really want to expand to other demographic groups. You know, the elderly is a huge target for us because that's how we got in the industry in the first place. So we want to expand into a more diverse product line so we can market to the soccer moms, to the elderly community. So that's also on our list for expansion, is just expanding our actual product line within our current retailers. But we're also planning on tripling our doors by the end of the year, and we're on track to doing that. So I'm really excited about that as well. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, and like we said, retail could be potentially coming down the line. But again, you know, we really want to focus on the quality of our product. So like Rebecca said earlier, we really like to take an organic approach to how we enter into any type of business situation.
Yeah.
Got it. Looking forward to seeing what is next from y'all. We said these statistics 3 times. I'll probably say it 3 times in every show we do. I'm not going to revisit that. I will say there's not enough people who look like us, and particularly who look like y'all in this industry. So between the two of you, if you had 3 tips, and I feel like we've gone over a couple of them now, but just to reiterate, if you had 3 tips for folks who look like us, who want to get into this industry just at a high level, assuming that you live in a place that has a cannabis marketplace, what would they be?
I would start with being persistent, Secondly, I would say, and LaToyia, I guess you kind of last, because I have so many tips.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would say is do your research. Don't just say you want to open up a dispensary and there are 100 in your zip code. Don't say you want to be a cultivator and you ain't never grown a tomato. It's just silly. It doesn't make any sense. Really evaluate the supply chain, see what the gaps are. That's why we create businesses, right? This is Black enterprise, right? This is why we create businesses, to fill gaps. How can we fill gaps as a business? What needs can we fill? So start with that, but also look at yourself as a person and say, okay, what skill sets do I have that can help fill some of these gaps in the industry? That's how I think you can be more successful, especially if you're at the point of, I want to enter the cannabis industry, but I don't really know what to do yet. I think if you take those 2 steps of being persistent, but also doing your research of the market and doing your research on yourself, self-work, and maybe your executive team, then choose a license type, then choose whether to get a license or not. First, do that type of evaluation. That's what it.
Yeah, I guess to piggyback off of what you were saying is, I would say be authentic. Be authentic with your message and your story. Because a lot of people are getting into cannabis because they think you're going to be a millionaire overnight, or you're going to be a success story overnight. And like she mentioned earlier, we've been doing this for 10 plus years. And now we're finally in a position to where we can, have our products on shelves. But it's all about being authentic and really sit down, whether it's you, by yourself or with your partners, and come up with your authentic story, your true self. I think when you present that to people, that people will gravitate to that all day.
Love it. Got it. A lot of game, a lot of knowledge in this interview, a whole lot of gems shared in this interview. Tell us, as we wrap up, where can we follow all of your success personally, Rebecca, LaToyia, as well as Calyxeum success?
Yes. Well, personally, y'all can follow me on the gram at Boycott Becky. Becky is my nickname. So what's up? Because I don't look like a typical Becky. And then on all other professional platforms at Rebecca Colett. Follow Calyxeum everywhere, y'all, everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Follow us at Calyxeum. Calyxeum is CALYXEUM. Also visit our website at Calyxeum.com. We also have a website for our nonprofit, CalyxeumCatalyst.com. And we also do consulting, CalyxeumConsulting.com. Just Google Calyxeum, you'll find us.
What she said.
Everything that she said. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in with us today. Really appreciate y'all's time. And until next week, we'll see y'all again. Peace. Thanks.